Let's talk about Seraphine. Seraphine is the newest mage coming to Summoner's Rift. There's a lot of valid criticism that's come her way since her announcement, but in this video we'll just be doing what my community usually does on the day of a new PvE release, examining her from purely a gameplay perspective, seeing what she can do, and optimizing what we can in a single play session. As usual, all of what you see in this video comes from my own experiences, but I have to emphasize one crucial detail this time around. Because of the preseason 11 item rework and how often it's changed over the past few weeks, we have a much better understanding of the champion herself, rather than precisely what her build is going to be. Let's start with her abilities. Seraphine has a two-part passive that defines her playstyle. First, every third basic ability will be cast twice in quick succession for no extra mana cost. This is called an Echo cast. For all purposes including Electrocute, Spell Thief's Edge, Kassadin's E, and the other part of Seraphine's own passive, this Echo is a second unique spell cast. Because this affects only basic abilities, casting Seraphine's ult does not give her an Echo stack. There's an extra indicator letting Seraphine know how close she is to a double cast. Her ability icons are blue at 1 stack, pink at 2, and golden when her Echo is ready. Seraphine's passive also creates a note on spellcast for every nearby ally champion, including herself. Notes circle the champion they're associated with, and each champion can have up to 4 notes, which last 6 seconds, counting from the last note applied. For every note that exists, Seraphine's next auto attack has 25 more range and deals bonus magic damage. All notes will be consumed globally in a single auto attack. Notes deal triple damage to minions and 95% of the previous note's damage to non-minions. Both the base damage and scaling on notes is quite small, but these things add up very quickly. Seraphine's Q is a damaging projectile that expands outwards in a ring from the point where it lands. It functions similarly to Nico's Q in that it only does damage once it lands, not while it travels. This ability is gigantic and has very good range, but it's also extremely slow, both while it travels and while it expands. It is noticeably harder to hit a ranged champion with this ability. The magic damage it deals is increased based on the target's percentage of missing health, hitting a maximum of 1.5 times damage when the target is at 25% HP. Because of the percent missing health property, double casting Q yields the most damage, but Q is also very ineffective on its own at poking down full health enemies. Additionally, it's decent wave clear in Seraphine's core damage ability, so I max this first. Seraphine's W is a shield and a movement speed boost for all allies in an extremely large area. It's an 800 unit AoE effect centered on Seraphine. The movement speed boost decays over the shield's duration of 2.5 seconds, and notably Seraphine speeds herself up more than she speeds her team up. If cast while Seraphine already has a shield, and it doesn't have to be her own shield, then Seraphine will heal her allies who remain in the spell's radius for a percentage of their missing HP once W's shield expires. Think of it as a redemption whose center moves with Seraphine. There's no base heal, only a percent missing HP heal that scales for each ally affected by the shield. Double casting W will stack the shield of both casts. This ability has an extremely long cooldown, 26 seconds at rank 1, and the only benefit for leveling it is 15 shield strength and 1 second off its cooldown per level, so I max this last. Seraphine's E is a linear skill shot that penetrates all targets, dealing magic damage and applying a 99% slow. If the target is already slowed, then it roots instead, and if the target is already immobilized, then it stuns instead. Yes, despite the tooltip saying it will stun only if the target is rooted, it also stuns charmed, feared, airborne, sleeping, and stunned targets. A double cast E yields the best CC. Although E deals reduced damage to minions, the double cast can help clear out a backline at rank 1, and at rank 5 it deals full damage to minions. We may want to investigate maxing E first for damage and wave clear, but the CC doesn't scale with ranks, and so I'm maxing this second. Finally, Seraphine's ult is a wide linear skill shot that damages and charms all enemies hit. If it hits an ally, then it instantly stacks 4 notes on them. This ability travels 1200 units, but every time it hits a champion, ally, or enemy, its distance is extended. It will act as though it was cast from that champion's position, and will reach its maximum range from that point, so this ability can go very far if it hits multiple spread out champions. It's a huge teamfight ult. Let's talk combos. Ultimately, what Seraphine cares about most is getting the correct double cast in her spell rotation. The obvious interaction is EQ auto attack for CC to set up your damage, and against immobile targets, the slow should be enough to land your Q. You can use W to speed yourself up and make it easier to land your very slow E, but of course be mindful of where in your echo stacks you are, understanding that double casting Q gives optimal damage and E gives optimal CC. Seraphine's not exactly a combo mage, and it should be intuitive when to cast your spells. If we're trying to get as much damage out of her as possible, possible, try this. R through your team, auto attack, E, echo Q, W, auto attack. Vary the moment of W's cast depending on your passive stacks to avoid double casting it, but either echo E or Q are fine. This exact combo requires you to be at 2 stacks, but if done correctly you'll get 2 auto attacks with full note contribution from each nearby ally, as well as an empowered Q and a fully CC'd target who will definitely not survive this unless they're a high magic resist tank. Note that the optimal conditions for this exact combo are difficult to come by, so prioritize hitting your R and go for both auto attacks only if you're close enough, because the window to land your E is pretty small. As a utility-heavy artillery mage, Seraphine is absolutely designed to be with her team as often as possible. In lane, she has a comfortable mana pool and enough defensive tools to neutralize melee threats, but it seems very difficult to come out of lane phase with a solo kill. When the mid-game hits, if Seraphine is alone, her damage is noticeably lower, her CC is far more unreliable, and she dies extremely easily. However, with her team around generating extra notes, Seraphine becomes devastating in a fight. Her teammates don't even have to be strong, they just have to exist, and their presence inherently buffs Seraphine. It's a very odd dynamic. But understanding Seraphine's role in the game brings up a very interesting problem. Seraphine was designed as a mid laner, and of course she has reliable enough wave clear to succeed in that role, but she becomes far more useful with her jungler around, especially one with slows, CCs, or shields. You're definitely not seeing your solo queue jungler in your lane 100% of the time, and even in competitive play where I do expect her to perform better, the jungler can't devote all of their resources into the mid lane. I'm going to make a bold statement. I think Seraphine is a bot laner. Having an omnipresent support to set up her E's crowd control, to augment her W's utility, to poke and empower her Q, and to passively generate notes at all times simply unlocks more of her potential from the beginning of the game. On top of that, Seraphine's supportive elements augment her support and enable them to make more plays. In fact, Seraphine could even be a solution to double enchanter lanes being a cool idea but ultimately degenerate in practice. If you run an enchanter with Seraphine, one of those champions is obviously more of a carry than the other. I'm 100% convinced that although she's functional in the mid lane, she's a better bot laner. What about Seraphine's support? On paper, it didn't look super practical, but in practice, Seraphine had high enough base damages to be very impactful in lane, and seems to be able to function with just one core item. Her Echo Cast stacks Spell Thieves very fast, and not needing to farm means that it's easier to land her slow abilities on enemy champions because that's all you need to focus on. Paired with a utility carry or an ADC who can trade effectively, Seraphine can actually be fairly oppressive in lane. Don't bother with an Enchanter build, as Enchanter Seraphine takes too long to come online with far fewer benefits than similar champions, but I can see her being at the very least a functional AP support. So understanding Seraphine's purpose, what rune pages work for her? We found several keystones that feel good but can't determine which is best. Arcane Comet does not feel impactful because her isolated poke is difficult to land, making Comet itself harder to land. So if she's committing to longer trades, then there's better options. Phase Rush and Electrocute are both trivial to proc thanks to passive, with Phase Rush compensating for some of her vulnerability as well as being very meta on control mages at the moment, and Electrocute boosting her damage further, especially in the early game. I've also been told that Glacial Augment feels good for laning in mid lane, as auto attack plus E is more consistent and procs the root, but the state of Season 11 items makes this rune scale terribly, as there's no longer good options for mages to proc the Ice Beam effect. If I had to make a prediction, I'd say Phase Rush with either Precision or Domination secondary is the way to go, but we need to experiment further to be certain what's optimal. I simply don't have the knowledge of the new item system to confidently claim that I know exactly what to build, so instead here's some viable options. Everfrost feels like an excellent mythic, as landing it is free augmented CC. In fact, the full combo from earlier can be executed with Everfrost in place of ult for lower damage on a much shorter cooldown. Luden's is good as expected, but I value Everfrost more highly unless you're in a game state that demands you build extra magic pen. Rylai's means that every E is at least a root, as the slow applies before the conditional CC, but it feels rough to purchase too early. Lichbane is a massive damage spike, and Horizon Focus will boost your ult combo damage quite a bit. I don't think that Rabadon's death cap is necessary, as Seraphine can profit from other item effects to reach the same damage as she would with death cap's AP at a lower cost. So that's Seraphine in a nutshell. As far as gameplay is concerned, she's radically different from Sona 2.0, and brings more unique gameplay to the table than initially expected. If she does end up in the bot lane, as I suspect she will, we're going to see some very interesting lanes come out of this release. But don't forget, I did not have enough time to fully understand and master this champion, so there's almost certainly something I missed. Please experiment and report back with anything else you learn about Seraphine. And I hope I was able to help you rally your backup dancers on the Rift when Seraphine releases.